Welcome back. Fire up the printing presses, my friends. It's time to churn out a quick trillion worth of worthless paper so that we can cover up another theft run by corrupt governments and bankers. Today, European leaders agreed, yes, to a $1 trillion rescue plan. I call it the cover-up plan, on the heels of the $150 billion bailout for Greece last week. So you add $1 trillion to that. The EU and the International Monetary Fund agreeing to open up the coffers for any Eurozone countries in need of help, with the goal of avoiding a total collapse of the euro and a return to, yes, 15 currencies in that part of the world. You can think of this as a TARP bailout for Europe. That obviously turned out very well here in America, especially if you're a corrupt banker or politician looking to pick off a few $100 million or $1 billion for yourself at the expense of a nation state or maybe a few of them. And speaking of our generosity, guess who is helping to foot the bill for Europe's bailout? Thank you. We are opening our wallets to help the European allies, given that the U.S. currently supplies a fifth of all the funding at the IMF. It means that you're paying $8 billion to help Greece directly not deal with its $400 million debt problem that it was, of course, hidden away nicely by its banking friends until it emerged as a giant, scary beast that no one could pay for. Sound familiar? And then $57 billion of the rescue package approved today. You see, it's in the interest of the bankers and politicians to hide this and then give you things until they can't hide it anymore, and then they just print money. See? Add to that the Federal Reserve's promise of providing loans overseas, and Ben Bernanke's new decision to let foreign banks post collateral, they like to call it collateral, in return for printed cash. Well, you'd think we have buckets of money to hand out, as if buying trash bags full of who knows what from our own country wasn't bad enough. We are now preparing to start buying trash bags from Spain, Portugal, and Greece. See, here's a Greek one. This is a big one. It's a good, see, there's a lot of us. And honestly, the American taxpayers, great sucker, doesn't riot, doesn't vote, pays his taxes. You can steal his money. It's no problem. American taxpayer doesn't care. Just jam a little grease in your gut. You won't feel that. You might need Pepto a little bit later, but we won't talk about that. What do we got here? I guess this is Spain here. Hold on. Just don't move. No reason to get upset. Just keep paying your taxes. One more country won't hurt you, will it? I'll give you extra Pepto late night. You'll be fine. Whew. Man, stealing all that money is hard work. Of course, global markets have viewed all this with elation in the short term. Of course, global markets are run 60% of the volume is high-frequency trading by the banks, mind you. So anyway, here at home, the Dow surging hundreds of points on news of the rescue plan. Investors clearly breathing yet another sigh of relief that, God forbid, the private sector actually have to deal with anything. Instead, the public markets or the public governments will deal with all the risk. And, well, the stock market goes up because all the risk is with the taxpayer. Never mind the little fact that no one actually has anything like the $1 trillion that's being promised. It does make you wonder why you and I still have to pay our taxes when everybody else just runs $1 trillion printing press to bail themselves out of a given situation. Why do we have to give money to anybody? Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Shaka Fatah of Pennsylvania. He wrote Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner on Friday urging U.S. support for the Greek bailout. Also with us from Spokane, Washington, Republican Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers, who opposed the Greek bailout. Kathy, why'd you oppose it?
Well, I think it's really a slap in the face to the honest, hardworking American taxpayers.
But that's how it's been that way for years. It's been that way for years. Well, isn't that the plan?
No one wants Greece to go bankrupt. It is a member of the European Union. The European Union was organized to actually be an economic competitor to the United States. We've had some states in America, California, New Jersey, New York, that have faced some very difficult budgets. And they've tightened their belt, made some difficult decisions in order to balance their budgets. But we didn't go to Europe asking them to help bail out these states. Yeah. And this is a situation that the European Union needed to figure out how to best meet the situation rather than going to the international community.
But when you have a corrupt banking system that seeks to leverage up the debt on countries and banks in order to make itself wealthy and then transfers that risk to the state, isn't the answer the end of bank and politician corruption, not austerity measures and taxation?
Yeah, the answer is for government to stop spending beyond its means. We cannot borrow and spend our way into prosperity.
I get that, but there's another issue here. Banking has become a highly low-margin, high-output business that has been corrupted by bankers and politicians to make money with uncollateralized derivatives, high-frequency trading, and cooking the books with the ratings agencies, in effect, to sell nonsense. Why are our politicians perpetuating these fraudulent businesses that banks call profits that's really a tax on the world's capital?
And it needs to stop. There needs to be transparency. We need to be honest about what's happening, and we need to be protecting the hardworking, honest American taxpayers and their dollars.
We're on the same page. Isn't that the brilliance of Too Big to Fail, where I am able to effectively threaten you with an unacceptable outcome, the loss of every pension, the loss of economic activity with the totality of Western Europe, unless you allow me as the bankers to transfer all of the risk to your government, allow me to keep all the money for creating all that debt, and oh, please do not reform my business. What you just described is the absolute brilliance of the too big to fail model and the two-class system where one group of people basically takes over the government, creates an implicit threat like the cessation of all jobs or, for that matter, trade with Europe, and then politicians have no choice but to give away all of our tax money on a printing press. You have to admit that's a pretty clever strategy, wouldn't you say? And this reminds me, a friend of mine was a great negotiator, and he would not negotiate with anybody for anything until he had managed to light the opponent's house on fire, and only once his opponent's house was burning, then he would begin a negotiation and say, oh, I'm going to take now everything you want, or everything I want from you, or I'm going to refuse to put the fire out. I guess what I'm looking for, since we knew that this house is going to be on fire for years now, we just had a house on fire a few years ago in our own country, and we now have a financial reform bill where no one even wants to restructure the house to prevent it from burning. You'll forgive me for my cynicism to a group of people who are happy to give away trillions of dollars of other people's money to protect their own jobs under the guise that it is some sort of a fire that must be put out. I wonder what British Petroleum feels about their fire down in the Gulf of Mexico, or all the amendments that are not being put forth or not done in the financial reform bill. Did you know, actually, did both of you know that the ratings agencies still work for the banks in this country? The same ratings agencies that are rating AAA debt out of those European countries that you guys are paying off with our money, the same ratings agencies that were rating that Abacus deal that was sold out of Goldman Sachs, which is a derivative of derivatives, effectively paid off and vetted by the ratings agencies. None of that's been changed. It's brilliant. I love it. I'm telling you, I don't see why you don't just get out a gun and start taking everybody's money. Like, what do the American people have to do to have our politicians solve a problem without the negotiating point that the house is on fire, so we're going to need all your money, Kathy?
Well, but the house has been on fire, and what we've been doing is just throwing more gasoline on the fire. We haven't been taking steps to put out the fire, and that is what is most concerning to me. So we're asking American taxpayers right now, we're borrowing 43 cents on every dollar for our current federal budget. We have a $1.4 trillion deficit for the current year. So we're going to borrow money from China so we can help bail out these countries in Europe.
Apparently,
we need to start taking steps. Well, we need to start taking steps to put Americans back to work, get our economy strong. Let's enact some pro-growth policies, and let's stop just throwing gasoline on the fire.
Listen, I could not agree with you more. I appreciate you indulging me in the conversation, both of you, today.